All right, jumping into the Flex Friday bets on PrizePicks for today. So I do want to go ahead and start out with WNBA because we are getting one that should really be a good bet. We are getting one that's going to be minus 143 to get 4.5 rebounds, and that's going to be for the over. Projected to get 5.9. The over is favored at 55% likelihood to hit. That should be a prop that we are targeting. That's probably going to be the best prop that we have available on the day. And I'll say pretty much this is the game log that I want to see, where she's been able to get the over twice, and the two times that she didn't, she barely missed getting the over. Obviously, one of the games did not, which is also going to be the matchup tonight. I guess that'd be part of the worry as well. And just kind of taking a peek at those game over and unders, I would say obviously for the overs, we want to be attacking this game a little bit more. Okay, just a higher scoring game. But now let's go ahead and try to find some other WNBA props that we might have available on the day. And so the rest of them are going to be pretty solid, it looks like. Maybe you could do Kayla McBride for points and rebounds as well, but this is the best one that we are getting on the day. And we're not getting too many. I will say the points and rebounds one, I don't mind that for Kayla McBride, just because the projection has her over that by a decent amount. So definitely one that we could look at. Let's see where the Vegas line is a little bit different than the numbers that we are getting. Nothing too much, nothing too egregious. Although we do see this one with Diana. No one wants to touch her after that taco disaster. And PrizePicks is kind of going with the under pretty aggressively here, I would say. The average Vegas line has a rebound set at 4.5. PrizePicks has it set at 3.5. Projected to get 4.6. So, maybe there's something there. Let's go ahead and flip it around. Actually, let's see if there's any Underdog PrizePicks differences. There are not. Wow, that's actually pretty shocking there. So yeah, probably just that, the Kayla McBride prop in whichever capacity that you guys want to roll with it. Let's get into some MLB props. And so looking at it, we don't really have any great props today, MLB wise. We have some that are what I would call shoulder shrug bet. I talk about this in fantasy golf a lot, or just DFS lineups a lot, where if you end up on a player to close out your DFS build, you kind of just shrug your shoulders and you're okay with it because it's a solid enough one, but it's not something you go out of your way to play. That's kind of how I see these first 5 bets, where we got a 53 to 52% chance for them to hit. That's fine. And they also are projected to get the over as well. Obviously, we like to see that. The worry is that, they're only about a 52% chance to hit. That's not great. And even this one, Jean Segura, for over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, that's just not enough for me there for his projection to only be 1.78. So I don't love that. Let's see if we have any good pitcher props for the day. And what I want to see here is do we have any where the Vegas line suggests that we should betting the over? And we do. We got 2 kind of. Okay, so Sandy is definitely going to be the best one. This is one that should go in the bet of the day. This is one that should go with the Kayla McBride prop. So let's just take a peek at his game log. We can see the reason why PrizePicks is giving us this prop line. He has been hit or miss, and he hasn't been pitching deep into games like he was last season. I mean, 7 innings is pretty deep, don't get me wrong, but the wins haven't been there as much, the quality starts haven't been there as much, or the strikeouts haven't been there as much. He hasn't really had it all kind of clicking together in just one game. Either gets hit up too much, doesn't get enough strikeouts. There's just been a little bit too much of that going on. So I'm curious. Let's take a peek at the DraftKings Sportsbook here. Yeah, this is interesting. Miami's not even favored to win, and they still like him that much, both the projection data and Vegas. I'm going to roll with it, but I wouldn't say that's a lock and load. We're banking on a quality start. We're banking on 7 innings. What's 7 times 3? 21 points there. I would hope for, let's see what his pitcher strikeout props is only set at 5. So if he gets that, that's 15. So is that 36 right there? 36 points right there. We tack on a quality start where we get 4 points. That's 40. And then minus the whatever runs he gives up. It is probably one that's close, but probably should be a little bit higher than that. And then there is Joe Ryan as well, who Vegas likes as well. The projection data doesn't like it as much. 37.5 is going to be a lot of pitching fantasy points. So really just Sandy there. Let's go ahead and look at some hitting fantasy score props. So guys, some of the odds have shifted this afternoon, which kind of sucks. Part of the game, right? Sometimes they shift in our favor, sometimes they don't. But looking at right now, earlier this morning, we had 3 really solid fantasy score hitting props. And I don't think I can recall the odds shifting that much like they did today. But I want to call this one out with Bo. So I mentioned earlier today, his under odds were set at minus 250. So it does make sense where it's now being adjusted a little bit to where his average fantasy score is now 7.46 instead of the whatever it was earlier this morning, because they're kind of the average odds that I'm pulling in there are now adjusting it less egregiously pretty much. So it makes sense why the fantasy score would be a little bit tighter. So right now, the two best ones that we have are still going to be Matt Olson, but obviously what I like to do is I like to look at both the Vegas line that we're getting and then the projection data. I want those both to be over 2. We're not getting that with anyone today now. But also Mike Trout's still good enough. But we also have Luis Arias as well here. So that's one we can roll with as well. I have been defaulting to hitting fantasy score props more as well, even if they don't meet that threshold that I wanted to. And they have been hitting a decent amount, but obviously not at that 70% clip like it has been. I guess I should say now like it does when they are both over by 2. That's kind of my worry there. And then real quickly, let's just go ahead and look at some PGA props as well. So the course is playing more difficult today as expected, but it's not playing extremely difficult. So it's kind of tough to exactly say what to expect. And the lines haven't really changed too much. I will say this is an interesting line that we are getting for Ricky Fowler. PrizePicks wise, this is one of the best ones that we're getting, it looks like. Ricky's PrizePicks line is set at 70.5. Okay, that's going to be a half a stroke over par, whereas Underdog has adjusted to 69.5. That seems like an edge to me. With the course playing easy, I kind of think we could bet Ricky to shoot under par or even par. He might not light it up like he did yesterday, but we don't really expect him to. Expect a solid performance out of him, and that's actually one of the best bets that we have available on the day as well. Open, they just updated that literally, but still, it's still a pretty good one there. So they updated to 70, so they adjusted for how easy-ish it's playing. I shouldn't say easy, it's not playing easy, but it's not extremely difficult. So let's go ahead and look at some other projected edges. We're still getting John Rahm, Ricky Fowler as a projected edge there. Let's go and flip it around. Nothing too much. Do we think Scotty Scheffler is going to miss 5 green? Maybe. Not a terrible one there. I don't mind that. Max Homa, will he hit 13 greens? That's a little bit more difficult as well. I don't mind the fairways hit props, but I don't know. I feel like golf is, I don't want to say it's a stay away, but I think I would just roll with these two again from the morning video. Might be what I roll with. But I do want to call out some ones here because there were a couple of players that struggled in round 1 that are expected to play better in round 2. So I just want to call these out. We could pair it with the potential Flex Friday slip that we have. So looking at these golfers, okay, I'm just looking at the strokes. So let's just sort it by strokes. And we can see the lines are all probably pretty good, especially based off of their averages. The one thing that this data doesn't pull in is these guys all had terrible round 1s. Really worse than expected, by far worse than expected. And if you were to look at the 9 to 5 data that was going into the week, I guess I'll show you guys that real quick. This leaderboard is basically packed with really good players in the 9 to 5 model, especially when you consider value. And then you look at those 3, it seems like they just had a bad day. Okay, so I don't mind kind of betting them together, maybe Rose and Adam Scott for under par round, even Haddon under par rounds. It's tough to imagine them struggling again. All of them could not make putts. So I don't mind the idea of pairing those together. Those seem to be too high. You look at Ricky Fowler. Ricky was essentially the same play as all 3 of those guys right there. So we're getting a full stroke with him just because he lit it up yesterday. I get that, but it's interesting there. So we do have options. Let's put it that way. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the bet slip number 2 of the day. Obviously, we're adjusting throughout the day a little bit based off of the props that are available. These, to me, are going to be the best bets that we have available. We see Caleb McBride is going to be much of a EV bet there. Then we got Sandy, where Vegas likes him for the over. The projection likes him for the over. I have him in fantasy baseball. I'm trying to kind of take my personal bias out of it because he's been struggling. Okay. I'm trying to take my personal bias out of it. So I'm just going to roll with him. If he sucks, I'm just going to hate him internally. 1, because he made me look bad in front of you guys. And 2, because he's hurting my team. Then Matt Olson, Mike Trout, still good enough. I kind of imagine that those lines could shift back up throughout the day and right before game time. That's kind of why I like to do my videos at the time I do in the mornings, because we'll see the correct lines maybe in the morning. They'll adjust throughout the day, maybe come down a little bit, and then right before game time, you guys have probably seen this, the odds spike back up. And I do want to touch on that. I'll touch on that in just a second here. And then just looking at Justin Rose, Adam Scott, for those reasons I just mentioned with Ricky. If Ricky is a good under bet, which I agree with, I would say Rose and Scott would be as well. Okay. Just based off how they're expected to play, especially because they just bumped up Ricky a little bit, or bumped down Ricky a little bit. So I did want to mention, this was a good example of last night where these lines were not there. They were not good props really throughout the day up until 30 an hour before lineup lock, or bet lock, I should say. And then these ones were really kind of popping because, it was right about game time. Vegas lines started to like them a little bit more. And so I got it. That's just kind of an example how you could go about doing that. But that's going to be all for today's video. Appreciate the likes from the first video, guys. I really do. 150 as I started recording this video. I do appreciate that. That helps the channel grow. That helps the videos grow. And hopefully that helps your guys' bankroll. I mean, it should be. I know this week hasn't been as glorious, I guess, as previous weeks, but still a pretty solid profit week thus far units wise. So hopefully that continues as well. Thanks for watching. Let's have a good night. And as always, let's keep cashing. Oh, happy Friday as well.